part 3 of my November DVD and Blu-ray update. Ahoy hoy everybody, and welcome to part 3 of my November DVD and Blu-ray update. I had so many to get through, but it's gone on for 3 parts, which is a first. I must try and get through them quicker. I did have probably actually 2 weeks off in between the 2 sets, so I got through. Normally if I got a week off I get through quite a few. Anyway, first up we have Paul Merton with series 1 and 2. I mean, Paul Merton is an idol of mine. He's my favourite comedian, and I loved this series when it was broadcast on Channel 4 originally. I had the VHSs of it, watched them time and time again. There are bits of this that were sort of running jokes in my flat at university. I just absolutely loved it. So, there was a Paul Merton, The Collection, I think it was called. Yes. DVD release, which I've showed obviously when I did all those, which had some of this in it, but it's not had a complete release since the VHSs, which also had little extra bits on them as well. So, was really looking forward to this coming out, and it's got commentary from Paul Merton, which I thought great, excellent. However, bought it, pre-ordered it. I was going to put it at the top of my to-watch pile, but then I found out that Paul had decided to edit some of the episodes. On rewatching, there were sections that he just didn't find funny anymore, so he decided to edit them out of his shows. And that sort of dampened the release for me, because, it's his show, but this should be a historic artefact of the show. Complete. And it's not really up to him to decide if they're still funny. It's up to the audience. He explains it all in the commentaries why he's done it, but I still think they should have been left intact. All that said, what is there is really good. There's some really strong stuff in here. And it sort of, it amazed me, even though a lot of it I hadn't watched for 20 years plus. Still huge chunks of it I was sort of saying along in my head as I was watching it. Yeah, really strong. Just a shame how it was dealt. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino's 9th film. Yes. Didn't see this at the cinema. I haven't seen Tarantino at the cinema since Pulp Fiction. Always wait for them to come out on media to watch them. Always love them. A Quentin Tarantino ranking will be coming probably fairly soon. I might want to rewatch some of them before I do. But this one, I went into it knowing that it's not entirely faithful to history, but not knowing how it was sort of changed. So watch this. I loved it. This is, spoilers, but this is right up in my Tarantino ranking. I absolutely loved this film. Great performances all around. Really, just excellent film. Loved it. Basically. Charlie's Angels, the new one. I loved this as well, basically. I enjoy TV series. I think I saw odd episodes when I was a kid, but wasn't a huge part of my life. But loved the 2 Barrymore Diaz Lou films. When this was announced, thought, do they need to do it again? But then it's Kristen Stewart, and I really like Kristen Stewart. Then I saw Naomi Scott in Aladdin. I thought, I like Naomi Scott. And the other girl, Ella Balinska, is completely new to me. But having watched this, she wowed me as well. So really liked the cast. Thought this was really well done. A fresh take on it while still being familiar. Nice for Kristen Stewart to show her comedic side and her action side. She's rapidly becoming one of my favourite actresses. She's a huge talent. But yeah, as I say, all three of them were great, and the whole plot and story and the way it was done, really enjoyed it. Halloween, which is this I bought ages ago. I think I've sort of used it to make up a twofer. I think probably in the same batch as the Blade Runners and Close Encounters and what have you that I showed in the previous two parts. Well, I sort of used it. I thought, well, I've watched Halloween years ago and I quite enjoyed it, and I love Jamie Lee Curtis, so I might as well add this to it. So it went in my pile, and my pile is in the order that I buy it, and purely by chance it came up that it was ready to view next on the pile on Halloween, so I watched it on Halloween night. It's a great film. On second viewing, it's a great film. I'm sure you're all familiar with the plot, but basically, one Halloween, a very young Michael Myers kills his sister. He gets sent to the loony bin, basically. Escapes 9 years later, I think. 15 years later, even. Escapes 15 years later and goes back and starts killing again, basically. But it's really well done. It's one of the earlier slasher films, and it sort of establishes a lot of the tropes that we've come to know and love. It's surprisingly, although it's an 18 certificate, it's surprisingly very little, if no blood in it. You don't really see any blood. Not much anyway. But yeah, it's very menacing performance by the actor playing Myers. I can't remember who it is in this one. Apologies to all you experts. Great performances by all the cast, really. But yeah, John Carpenter wrote, directed, did the music, etc. And it does a great job. Excellent film. This was The Artist. This was another £2 Poundland jobby. Winning Best Film or Best Picture at BAFTAs. No, Best Film at the BAFTAs, Best Picture at the Oscars. Lots of nods for the actors as well. I enjoyed it, but it didn't wow me. I find that a lot with Oscar winners. So, what is it, 1927, and Jean Dujardin plays George Valentine. George Valentin. Silent movie star extraordinaire. And it's basically the shift from silent films to the talkies. And the film is told as a silent film. There's one dream sequence where we get sound but no dialogue. Yeah, you hear laughter, but no actual speech, I don't think. And the nightmare is that he can't speak, but there's sound all around him. That's sort of in the middle-ish. And then the very last line of the film is spoken. But it's all told silent, black and white. It's as I say, it's really well done, and I enjoyed it. But I didn't think, wow, that's an Oscar-worthy film. But there you go. Pixar's Onward. I've got all the Pixar films. I tend to pick them up as and when they become available in the 2 for £12 sales. So grabbed this one. Enjoyed it a lot. It's not one of their best. It's not as bad as some people have made out. It's set in a world where magic and everything, surrounding it, all the creatures and everything existed. And then over time, much as humans have, they sort of developed and technology developed, and they found they didn't really need magic anymore, so magic had got lost. And, but it's still set in this magical world, if you like. I'm sure you all know the plot. I'm not going to go through the plot. Anyway, it's a road movie, basically. Really well done. As I say, very, as you would expect from Pixar. Looks great. Enjoyed it a lot. Onward. Doctor Who: The Power of the Daleks Special Edition. So I have the standard edition of this that came out a few years ago. This was a Patrick Troughton era story. In fact, it was Patrick Troughton's first story. And all but... I can't remember on this one. I think it's just various little sections. Yeah. There were sort of snippets of it that still existed, but no complete episodes or anything. So they did it animated with audio recordings that had been taped off for telly. It's a strong story, really well done. Lovely little package this. 3-disc set full of extras, loads of, really quality extras as well. There's all that remains of Robin Hood episode from Patrick Troughton played Robin Hood from before Doctor Who. It's a nice Wicker's World on here. The Daleks, the early years VHS release is on here. All sorts. Really strong release of a good story. Frozen 2. So I like the first Frozen. I don't love it. I probably enjoyed it more on second watch than I did on first. I would say the same. Well, I mean, I haven't watched it a second time, but I liked it. I didn't love it. But it held my attention. I've heard people say the songs are probably better than the first one, but I'd say they're probably on a par. There's no big, sort of let it go type tune. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I'm not sure. But nice slip on this. Yeah, it was okay, basically. This is We Bums. So this is a, Belgian and Dutch co-production, I think. So it's a village on the border, and it's a really hot summer, and then 8 teenagers, friends, get together, and they need to make money, so they go basically increasingly dark. They set up a porn website, and then they go into prostitution, and they set up a brothel, and then they start blackmailing the clients. And then one of them dies. I won't say how, because we don't find that out till quite a way into the film. So I don't want to spoil it. But one of them dies, and then there's a court case, and the whole thing's sort of told as a series of flashbacks from 4 different characters' point of views. I'm trying to avoid showing too much of this because of the nudity on the cover. It's a double-sided cover, but there's just as much nudity on the other side. Yeah, it's all told flashbacks from 4 of the characters' perspectives. Really enjoyed it. It's really well done. Great performances by all the cast. Obviously it's subtitled, but really doesn't affect viewing, as it rarely does for me anyway. There is heaps, as you can probably tell from the plot line, heaps of nudity, one small example of real sex in it. If that sort of thing puts you off a film, this isn't for you. But yeah, it's really strong, coming of age type, bit of a mystery element to it. Yeah, thriller, drama type story, basically. But yeah, that's We. Yesterday, so the film written by Richard Curtis, directed by Danny Boyle. So Hamish Patel? Himesh Patel, was close. He's a failing singer-songwriter, basically, who gets into an accident, which he's cycling, and there's a big worldwide blackout, and at that point he gets hit by a bus, because it's dark and he's not seen. When he survives, but when he wakes up, he finds out that nobody else can remember the Beatles apart from him. So he starts performing their songs and becomes a huge star. I enjoyed it quite a lot. A couple of points I lost concentration briefly, but only briefly. His best friend, potential love interest, is played by Lily James, and whatever I watch Lily James in, I fall in love with her, so I fell in love with her in this. Genuinely funny at times. There's one scene that's become quite notorious, but I won't spoil it if you haven't seen it. I know it splits people. It didn't really bother me. The only sort of thing that did bother me is anything like this. There's sort of rules that would certain things have happened if certain things, other things hadn't happened. Anyway, and what and on a related note, you know, there's a great gag in there which isn't much of a spoiler, but because the Beatles didn't exist, Oasis never existed. But then I mentioned loads of other bands who certainly would never have existed without the Beatles as well, who do still exist in that world. But yeah, enjoyed it. Trying to race through these now. Tomb Raider, the new reboot with Alicia Vikander as Lara Croft. Really enjoyed this. There's a lot of times when it really felt like a Tomb Raider game. You know, the whole sequences were lifted from the games, but you know, gave you that feeling as they did it, which didn't tend to get with the two Angelina Jolie films, much as I enjoy those. But yeah, enjoyed that a lot. Looking forward to the next one. Darkest Hour. So this is the story of Winston Churchill taking over basically the British government during the war. Excellent performances all round, including Lily James again. Particularly Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill. Gripping. Enjoyed it from start to finish. But yeah, very good film. This is last year's Strictly Come Dancing release. So this is Shirley and Craig's Perfect 10. And this is signed by Shirley Ballas and Craig Revel Horwood. This was an HMV exclusive signed version. So I love these releases. I have them all. It's nice to revisit some of the old dances, to see them again. Biggest problem with this one is Shirley Ballas is a terrible presenter. I didn't like her at all when she first joined Strictly, but I've sort of grown used to her, and she has her moments, but she can't present for toffee. You know, she's so obviously reading an auto cue. It's terrible. But otherwise, enjoyable watching it all again. This is The Night Watch. This was a BBC Two one-off drama from 2011, but I finally got round to picking up again. I watched it when it aired and enjoyed it. It's based on a novel by Sarah Waters, who wrote Tipping the Velvet, rather. It starts 1947, so just post-war, and then it goes back in 2 or 3 different leaps and sort of tells the story backwards. But it's an intertwining love story between Anna Maxwell Martin, Claire Foy, and Anna Wilson-Jones. Then there's Harry Treadaway's character, who's gay, and we meet him as he comes out of prison, and then that sort of goes backwards in time. His sister, played by Jodie Whittaker, and her story. It's all set, during the Blitz, well, obviously, the wartime sections anyway. So on the Blitz, Anna Maxwell Martin is a WP, is it they call them? But, she goes to the bomb sites and helps people and what have you. But yeah, it's just beautifully done, really well acted by a brilliant cast. Series 3, the final series of Harlots. I really enjoyed this series. There's one major event in this series which put a bit of a damper on it for me as a... trying to work out what to say without spoiling it. Yeah, sorry. As a fan of a particular actress, I'll just say that. But still really good throughout. Maybe wrapped it up all a bit too quickly at the end. But other than that, yeah, really enjoyed it. And, you know, it's nice comeuppances for certain characters and things like that. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy dragged a bit for me. It was good. It's beautifully acted. But it's quite slow. Not as slow as the TV series, which I watched many years ago. And not as slow as the book either, which I tried to read many years ago. Pretty much held my attention throughout, though. As I say, excellent performances. And finally, Charlie Countryman. This was another £2 Poundland pickup. I'd seen the trailer for this on something else and thought, oh, that doesn't look too bad. So I thought I'd pick it up for a couple of quid. Oh, The Necessary Death of Charlie Countryman is what it's actually called. Shia LaBeouf, his mother dies and he's sort of visited by her immediately afterwards, saying, go to Budapest or Bucharest. See, it's me getting confused. Bucharest, I think it is. Spoilers, she actually meant Budapest. Anyway, so he goes to Bucharest. On the plane, the older guy sat next to him falls asleep on his shoulder, so he sort of nudges him awake. And we end up having a conversation, and this guy buys him champagne, and they sit. And, you know, he finds out his life story and about his daughter, and then this guy falls asleep again, but he never wakes up. He dies on the plane. So he'd sort of agreed with this guy to pass this hat that he'd bought onto the daughter. And the daughter's played by Evan Rachel Wood. He almost instantly falls in love with Evan Rachel Wood. And she's a cellist, but she's involved with a local mafia boss. And that's where it all gets messy, basically. It was enjoyable. It held my attention. Performance-wise, it's good. Funny performances by Rupert Grint and James Buckley in it. Mads Mikkelsen is as excellent as ever. There are some plot points that are sort of leapt at too quickly, and it gets a bit messy at times. But yeah, by and large, enjoyed it quite a bit, actually. Okay, that's it. That's me up to date. Over 3 videos, about an hour between them all. Thank you for watching them. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. Thanks. Bye.